For the Northern Cardinal, listen for their rapid-fire cheer, 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 or birdie, 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 or sometimes a combination of the two. Cheer, cheer, birdie, birdie, birdie. When whistled, it sounds like this.
Apologies for this interruption, but we have some breaking news.
Two-Cat Kitchen, it's time for us to pitch in and start another Two-Cat show. Down at the Two-Cat Kitchen, we're starting on a mission to put you in the culinary know. We've got the finest recipes you ever will find, guaranteed to show you all a mighty fine time here at the Two-Cat Kitchen. Time for a new edition of the Culinary Two-Cat Show. The Culinary Two-Cat Show.
Welcome to the Two-Cat Kitchen, the show that mixes musical mayhem with culinary calamity. Sara Grady is here to help with the mixing.
Hey, everyone.
Each episode features new songs, a new recipe, and a special guest. Who's our guest today?
Today, we have Courtney Schmidt. Courtney is a scientist with the Narragansett Bay Estuary Program here in southern New England. She's going to tell us all about Narragansett Bay and New Jersey.
Wow, that sounds really interesting. You know, each episode of the Two-Cat Kitchen also includes an informative segment. What do we have for the people today?
It's conversations with cats who know where it's at. Today, we continue our conversation with noted matron of the theater, Madame Lemieux. Great.
Can't wait to hear that. But wait a minute. Is that the Coconotes?
I think so. Let me go check. Way too many glow sticks.
Okay, well, I hope they're ready because it's time for our first musical number. It's the Coconotes with Brightside here on the Two-Cat Kitchen.
Last night, seems you were slipping away. But seen again in the morning light, it didn't have to be that way. The words, they seemed so real, I didn't wanna know. But I knew there'd be a price to pay, knew you had to go. So I'm looking on the bright side, bright side, bright side of life. Looking on the bright side, bright side, bright side. Feeling of wonder, another link in the chain. But after all that's gone down, some doubts, they still remain. I'll keep looking ahead, keep on moving along. Keep on believing, believing we still belong. And I'm looking on the bright side, bright side, bright side of life. it's down to the wire. The final bets are in. And they're giving even money if we lose again or if we're gonna win. The game we're playing is not for the faint of heart. But we knew that this would be the case, yeah, right from the start. But I'm looking on the bright side, bright side, bright side of life. Looking on the bright side, bright side, bright side of life.
We're back at the Two Cat Kitchen. I'm here with Sara Grady. Sara, how are you doing tonight?
Doing pretty well.
All right, thanks for joining us. And we have our guest for this episode, Courtney Schmidt, staff scientist with the Narragansett Bay Estuary Program. Hi, Courtney. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Rick and Sara. Thank you for having me.
It's so great that you could join us here. So you work for the Narragansett Bay Estuary Program here in Rhode Island. And so tell us, what kind of stuff do you do? Or what is the program designed to do, I guess, is what I'm asking.
So the Narragansett Bay Estuary Program is part of 28 national estuary programs, which are authorized through the Clean Water Act and administered by the EPA. So it's a really good way of getting federal money down to local hands. And what we do with that is we think about things through the lens of clean water, healthy habitat, and really a good quality of life for everyone who lives, works, and plays in the region. And that covers all the fresh and the salt water that discharge into Narragansett Bay, Little Narragansett Bay, and the coastal ponds. So it's about 2,000 square miles and 2 million people.
Wow, that sounds interesting. So it's not just science in the sense of it, like ecology or things along those lines. You also do things that involve the local communities and
Yeah, so what we kind of have organized ourselves under 3 key services. So we talk about how we convene, we fund, and we do science communication. So in the convening sphere, we sit in a really squishy space between the environmental managers, the researchers, and the advocacy groups and the community-led watershed level groups. And so we can work to bring those groups together to start talking through sticky problems and get collaborative solutions going. Under funding, we try and pass the money that we get from the federal government straight on to those local groups. And we fund project planning, we fund science that needs to be done, we fund outreach and education that needs to happen. And then under science communication, that's mostly where my role falls as staff scientist, is to take the science that gets behind peer review or is not accessible to everybody for whatever reason and make it accessible. So that's either working with other scientists to write or build websites and reports that everyone can have access to, or it's finding ways to creatively share information so that people who are interested have access to the same level of information that the researchers and the managers do.
Wow, yeah, that's really interesting. So it sounds like, on one level you're taking, the EPA is a federal organization, right? And so they are kind of distant from the local communities maybe, and so you're taking funding from them that they make available and kind of making it more accessible to local people, right? Which is a good thing.
Yeah.
And then you're also making information more accessible, which is great.
That's the idea. Everything we do is pretty much open source. So if we create something, we put all of the raw information we used to create that, the methods of how we did it, the data we pulled, the people we talked to. We put that all in the documents themselves. So everything that we do is completely transparent.
Wow. Yeah, that's good. So I'm curious, like, Anna, you said you're involved with communication a lot, right? What are some of the things you do, like, on a day-to-day basis? Like, what, just to give folks an idea of, some of the specific things maybe you're involved in, or maybe one or two?
So part of my role is to manage the science, the projects and programs of the estuary program, and also manage grants, and I manage our internship program. So on any given day, I could be talking to people that we've given money to figure out, like, what's going on. Do they need help? How are they doing? If they're close to finishing out, like, what reports we might need to check all the boxes that need to be checked. Make sure that they get paid. If it's the interns, I work with anybody in our partnership who needs help and develop job descriptions, and then we advertise those, and I will work in the hiring process to hire good students to help our partners out. And then if it's in the projects and program sphere, I could be writing a report. I'm, learning. I could pick a topic I want to learn about and write about that in a way that I can share with everybody. So one recent one we did was I built what's called a story map. It's really it's a dynamic website that matches video with pictures and graphs and graphical information and text on solar installations in the forests in the region. So as part of, our renewable energy goals, we need renewable energy, and solar is really important to that equation. However, we're seeing a lot of our forests being lost to these installations. And the challenge there is our forests are really good places to capture carbon emissions. So trees take up CO2 as part of the photosynthetic process, and they put it into the tree, and they drive it down into the ground. And so it stores it and traps carbon there for a time. But if you're taking out those trees to put up solar panels, what is the balance there? And so it opened up a large conversation on what we as in this area could talk about in terms of development. We need to develop. We need places for people to live, and we need places for people to shop and work. But how can we do that in such a way that protects the forest and these regions that we need to protect our water quality, to give us recreation opportunities, to keep us cool? And, who doesn't love a good tree? So I did not know anything about that. I have no degree in anything related to solar or trees or forests. And I spent a number of years working with a lot of super smart people to put that together in something that everyone could share in.
Yeah, so it sounds like the scope of the Narragansett Bay Estuary Program is a lot more than just the estuary.
It is. Yeah, we think about the land and the water.
Yeah.
Fresh, salt, really everything, and then the people. Because if we don't have the people, then we don't have what we do.
There is a lot of place-based identity with Narragansett Bay and Rhode Island. It's difficult to be in Rhode Island and manage to not see Narragansett Bay in some way, shape, or form while spending the 45 minutes going from north to south.
Exactly.
But when you are elsewhere in the country or elsewhere around New England, do you feel like you have a sense of place-based pride for Narragansett Bay or for Rhode Island?
I do. I think I've been here 18 years now. This year is 18 years. And so there's a good chunk of my adult life has been spent in the state of Rhode Island. And it's kind of cool I like to travel. that when you go to places and everyone uses, Rhode Island as a unit of measurement, and you're like, yes, it really is that small. It's okay. I don't know, what is like something 300 Rhode Islands fit in Texas or whatever that little nugget is. But there is something to be said for it. And it's got its own, it's tiny but mighty. It's fun.
It's the small town effect,
yes.
Almost.
There is that, and I think because I haven't been here for my entire life, I can take pride in that. But I do understand that, when you grow up in a small town, I grew up in a small town in another state, that you kind of don't want to associate with it anymore. So, I don't know, I'll have to see it through my kids' eyes as they grow up here, what that means to them.
And what state do you come from?
So I grew up in New Jersey. I grew up actually in northern New Jersey, right outside New York City. And so this whole idea of an urban estuary, urban areas being right on the coastline is really where I grew up. It's it's in my culture, in my nature. And so coming here has not been that much different. I joke about Rhode Island being Jersey light because it's got all the good stuff. You have all the great food, you have the great people, you have all the corruption, but none of the congestion and like a quarter of the people. So it's great in that respect. But,
Rhode Island is like Jersey North.
I call it Jersey light because it really is. We have these conversations all the time about knowing a guy and all of the things that,
I'd much rather go through security at TF Green than Newark.
TF Green that is my favorite airport ever. I have gone through Logan once, and I will endeavor never to do that again. And I don't miss Newark Airport at all.
My favorite thing about that airport is just the giant sailboat. It's like you're like, I'm where I belong.
Yes, you walk in and there's this giant sailboat, and it's a legit sailboat, and you're just like, wait, this isn't a mock-up. This is a legitimate sailboat. And that is something I never realized about the sailboats, because, Newport's awesome, America's Cup. I love going down those museums there. The keels on those boats are huge. Like, I've never realized just how deep those go.
It's like an iceberg.
It is.
Yeah, and it's because when they sail, they tip over so much. They have to.
I'm not doing that. That's not going to be my.
They're always really shiny and sleek too. Those boats.
Someone's got to keep them clean.
All right, so I have a question. I'm wondering how you actually got interested in science. Were you always interested in like coastal science, the ocean, or did you kind of come into that later on?
No, so this is I really think we should have my mom here and ask her if I blew anything up as a child, because I think I was always playing, whether it was in the kitchen or out in the yard, about just understanding how the world works. I grew up with a family of people, my mom's family in particular, who just love being outdoors and gardening and the whole concept of being a steward to the planet. And so I picked that up at a very early age, and I kind of rolled with it. And I've always loved the ocean. I would vacation in lakes. I would, all these things, but always drawn to the ocean. I guess there's just some magic. It's a magical place. And so somewhere around when I was a kid, I said, I want to study the ocean. And like most kids in the 80s probably thought dolphins were cool and wanted to talk to dolphins. And I never let go of that. I let go of a lot of different things, of talking to dolphins, working in oceanography, like blue water oceanography, going out on these boats. But I also never lost the love of just how people interact with their space. And so living in a coastal state and then coming here to graduate school, it's like, I really want to know the human-induced changes to our coastal areas. And so that whole idea of how do we live with the coast? How do we move around in this space? And then how does the coast react to that? And that urban estuarine ecology is kind of where it went. And I have been dabbling in that. since I was in high school, I did a volunteer work at the Hackensack Meadowlands Environment Center, which is on the Hackensack River. If you know football and you know where it's now MetLife Stadium, where Giant Stadium is, it's actually just like the next town over. And it's this environmental center stuffed in the middle of the Meadowlands of soprano fame. And it's amazing because it's this area that's completely natural. But if you pop your head up and look, you see the New York City skyline. You see the rest of suburban New Jersey. But yet you have this whole wetland salt marsh ecosystem stuck down there. And that's kind of just brought that with me and ended up hanging out in Providence now doing a lot of the same stuff.
What's amazing about the Meadowlands is that you can stop at the rest stop there and stand next to the chain link fence, and there's a little interpretive sign that tells you all about the salt marsh, and that it feels a little bit sad, but it's also really inspiring because you're there in the midst of all of the highway and the trucks fueling up and stuff, and yet here's this environment persisting.
Is that something you would do, Courtney? Would you put up an interpretive sign like that? And do you guys do stuff like that?
What we do, we physically don't put up the signs. A lot of times what we do is we work with the groups that do that, and we'll help them pay for it through our grants and outreach. I don't think the estuary program has been involved in a sign on the side of a highway. I know a few of our signs around, but none of them on the side of a highway. But yeah, back to New Jersey. The New Jersey Turnpike is a very interesting dichotomy because it runs right through and over the Meadowlands. And the Pulaski Skyway, which runs east-west, and the Turnpike runs under it, is the longest landlocked bridge, I think, in the United States. The only water it goes over is the Hackensack River. It starts in Newark and ends in Jersey City, and there is one entrance and exit in the middle in Kearney. And you enter and exit in the left-hand lane. So only if you want to take your life into your hands will you come up that, because you have no vision and people do 60, 70 miles an hour because this is New Jersey instead of the 40 posted speed limit. It is a marvel of engineering.
Fun fact right here on the Two Cat Kitchen. Who would have known?
The next time I'm down there, if I have an extra span of time to kill, I may just drive over the bridge. Do it.
I would advise starting in Newark or Jersey City and going the other way. Don't go up in the middle. But if you're on the Turnpike, you see it. You drive underneath of it.
I've seen it.
It's this giant bridge.
I guess I always wondered what that was.
But
where
again,
does this bridge go?
This is how we ended up, because the river kind of exists between these two ridges. And so you have like Newark comes up and you got up to this ridge, and then it goes down, and then you come back up and you have Jersey City, and then it goes down again to the Hudson River. So like you had to get across that somehow. But yes, in the Meadowlands, you can go canoeing, you can go kayaking, you can do all sorts of things. You can take the train through it too. But that's like the Amtrak around here does that too. You go right up along the Connecticut shoreline, and one side is the marshland, and the other side is New London.
All right, I'm going to change the subject a little bit here. Two things. I have two questions here. Number one, this is for both you guys. Something about a sea shanty involving horseshoe crabs. Can you talk me through this?
All right, so part of the things we do for science communication at the estuary program is we will host periodic events. And last October, we hosted an event called Wild Things in the Narragansett Bay region. And it was a celebration of all sorts of plants and animals, land, sea, freshwater, saltwater. We tried to really cover everything. So this one day was scratching the surface of all the really cool things cool wild things that live in the region. And as we were going through the saltwater critters and looking for our iconic species, the things we wanted to talk about, the staff was discussing horseshoe crabs. And I said, I know someone who has done a lot of work in horseshoe crabs who would probably be really interested in sharing a story. And that was Sara. And in my way to coax out of Sara to actually say yes to do this was, have fun with it. This is a really chill crowd. I mean, it was a whole day event and we were feeding people. So I'm like, we're just going to have lots of people in the room who really just like all things nature. So make it fun. Don't stress about it. This is not, we're not grading you on anything. And so she's like, oh, I'm in. And a couple of weeks go by and Sara gives me a call and asks me if she could sing. And after checking with my boss, because I was actually petrified my boss, if I had said yes, I said yes immediately because I know Sara and I'm like, this is awesome. It's going to be great.
Trustworthy.
I trust Sara. Unfortunately, my boss did not know her as well. And I was like, all right, I love
legit.
my boss. I was like, trust me on this. And my boss, because she's like, you know what? Let's go with it. This is going to be a really fun event. Let's figure this out. Go for it. I'm pretty confident my boss did not know what she was going to get herself into, but it worked. And Sara shared with us a written sea shanty on horseshoe crabs.
Yes, I did. Complete with a PowerPoint to go along with it. Synchronized.
Horseshoe crab sea shanty.
Yes.
It kind of makes sense in a way, I guess.
Yeah.
It's wow.
Yeah.
It worked. It was the hit of the day. I think we were both getting a lot of phone calls and emails about this.
It's gotten a lot of mileage. May have convinced the state of Massachusetts to change their horseshoe crab regulations.
I was going to ask you about that. Because
it's possible.
Your new job, all of a sudden after this event, her new day job started really talking about changing their horseshoe crab program.
Yeah. I mean, there was already a big effort to improve the horseshoe crab regulations in Massachusetts, but the campaign was somewhat enhanced by the song. At least I hope so. I hope I played my part.
If we find this out, I actually need to get someone to write this down so I can turn around at the next time. Every few years, the EPA likes to make sure we're doing a good job. I want to turn that around and be like, so you want to hear our impact?
I know it's hard to measure that kind of impact because it's not dollars or acres, but but it's pretty it's making a change, right? I cannot take credit for the big regulatory changes. I'll take credit for the song.
We'll take credit for the song, and if anyone wants it, it's freely available on YouTube.
Yeah, we'll put a link to it.
Yes.
That sounds great. All right, Courtney, one thing we ask all our guests here on the Two Cat Kitchen is, what was your earliest musical memory?
So I was a toddler in the early 80s. So this is probably, I don't know, I guess I was 2 or 3, but my parents and I used to vacation in Lake Luzerne, New York, which is just south of Lake George. My dad's brother-in-law owned a cabin, and we would rent it for a week every summer. And on this same lake, there was this music camp for those probably middle school, high school kids who are just so musically inclined that their parents send them away to these summer camps to get better. And I don't know, it was every month or something they would put on shows that the community could come to. And first memory of those summers, I was little. I don't remember. I remember being outside the place because, again, only my parents would be crazy enough to bring a toddler to a classical chamber musical show. And so they did this, but I was outside. You could still hear it outside because I do remember hearing the music, and I would just wander around and hear all this, beautiful classical music, and it was orchestral. And then later in subsequent years, so we would go every single year. If we never did the show again, but when they would practice, because it was so quiet up there, you could hear them practicing all around the lake. And so my dad, we would get my mom and I, bundle us up, put us into the canoe, and we would row to where their property was. So they had their own beach, and we would kind of just sit out there in the canoe under the stars, listening to these really talented children play music. And we would watch the stars. We would, my mom would kind of show me where all the constellations were, tell the stories attached to them, and just listen to this music. And it was really peaceful and calm. And
Wow.
That's really special.
No, that's great.
That's amazing.
Like a free concert almost.
It was total, and that's, I think, why my parents really liked it. It was this free concert. You could just go and hang out if you were willing to be out there in the middle of the night. It's like 8, 9 o'clock at night or something like that. But I thought it was great.
Yeah. Wow, that's fantastic. That's a great memory.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like classical music now?
Yes. I was actually thinking about this today because my family always had music on, and it went from like the classical Beethoven, Bach, Chopin, pretty much all the way up. My grandparents were in big band. My parents, 50s, 60s, 70s. Like, I didn't realize how much both my parents really liked like the singer-songwriters until I was really starting to think about a lot of the music I heard, and actually some of the music I still like. So yeah, it was an eclectic run in our house, but always on those vacations, my mom always had a classical music on. I mean, there was no television. Like, the reception was, there was no cable. Reception was terrible. We're in the middle of the mountains in New York. And so one of the few stations that could come in was this classical music station. So we just always had it on.
Wow, that's great. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. Yeah, and we're going to wrap things up for the interview portion of our episode tonight. But we'll be back in just a minute to talk about a recipe. Can't wait for this. I've heard that it's been a matter of discussion, so we'll see what we come up with. We'll be right back here in the Two Cat Kitchen. It's time for another musical number here in the kitchen. Sarah, what do we have?
We have Close to Me by The Cure.
Oh, well, in our last episode, we heard Love Cats by The Cure. Is this a trend?
I sure hope so.
All right, here we go.
But if I had your faith, then I could make it
hours for this. I made myself so sick, I wish I'd stay asleep today. I never thought this day would end. I never thought tonight could ever be this close to me. But if I had your face, then I could make it safe and clean. If only I was sure that my head in the door was a dream. And we're back at the Two Cat Kitchen with Courtney's recipe. And since an estuary is a mixed liquid, I believe you have a mixed drink or two to tell us about.
Sure.
A first here in the kitchen. This is great.
Yes. I don't know what it says about me that I have on my on hand multiple recipes for cocktails, but I'm going to say it's because I like to host and like I like people coming over, and so I've taken upon ourselves to have like a special drink for different things. So I'm going to go with that. So the first one, when I asked my family what I should talk about with recipes, the first we did talk about the drink recipes, and the first one that came up that was unanimous of the over 21 crowd in my household was a rosemary grapefruit. They call it a rosemary grapefruit refresher, but it's use grapefruit juice, and I like gin. My mom had it with vodka, said it was very good. I like gin. And then you make rosemary simple syrup, which is super easy to do. You make a simple syrup and you put rosemary in it as the sugar melts, and then you just kind of let it sit and steep for a while.
All right, so what, for those of us who don't know what a simple syrup is, what exactly is that? It's just sugar and water?
Sugar and water, and you...
What are the ratios there, do you know?
1 to 1.
1 to 1?
So 1 cup of sugar to 1 cup of water, and you just stir it on the, heat it up on the stove until the sugar melts. You don't want to see any grains, any of the granules of the sugar. And then if you're putting something in it to infuse the simple syrup, like rosemary, once it's heated, you just kind of dump the rosemary sprigs in. I put a cover on it, put it in the back of the stove, and kind of forget about it for a half an hour.
Okay.
And then strain it out, and you have a simple syrup with flavor in it.
Wow. That sounds pretty easy.
It's super simple. Lavender I've done. But yeah, so the rosemary, and then you combine that with grapefruit juice. I did fresh squeezed because why not? I think we did this for New Year's, honestly. And then gin or vodka. I like it with gin. And then put that all together, and then you just like top it with club soda or
Okay. Any particular ratios of the liquids? I know the estuary has a... does the Narragansett Bay estuary
constantly
have a particular ratio of
a density
liquids?
gradient?
Density gradient?
Okay.
Wow. Let's see. So this, usually I was doing about a 1 to 1 with the grapefruit juice and the alcohol. So like if you were doing a shot of gin, I would do maybe a shot to a shot and a half of the grapefruit juice. And then put simple syrup to taste. It depends on if you like sweeter drinks or tartar drinks. and then shake that all in a cocktail shaker together. And
Okay.
then strain it into a glass and pour some club soda on it.
There you go.
Yeah. Nice and refreshing drink.
That sounds really good.
Sounds really delicious.
It really
Now-
was.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you do this like as a mocktail, or is that mocktail something totally different?
No, it can be. I mean, you just omit, in this one, you just omit the gin or the vodka, and you would just do the simple syrup, the grapefruit juice, and the club soda.
Oh, okay.
But I also, I have a different gin drink that was a lemonade. And we made homemade lemonade. So a squeezed, like, a bunch of lemons.
Bunch of lemons.
Bunch of lemons.
I did double.
Is that
It's
an
like
official
eight-
measure?
Yes.
Bunch.
This
Well,
one
it's one of
called
those
for 4.
bags.
Yeah. Go grab a bag.
Bag of lemons.
Actually, that's what I did. Because I made a huge batch of this. Because it's a lemonade and it had cucumber in it. Oh. I put that aside. And then the folks who wanted a mocktail, who don't imbibe in the alcohol, you could have the cucumber lemonade.
Wait a minute now. Cucumber lemonade. How does this happen? So I got lost at the bunch of lemons.
That's okay. You take your
You squeezed a bunch of lemons.
squeeze a bunch of lemons to get the lemon juice.
All right, lemon juice.
Because you want the lemon juice.
Got it.
Into a big pot. I throw the rinds in.
Ah.
I just throw everything in a
little
pot.
bit of zest.
A little zest.
Pro tip here on the
Yes.
Two Cat Kitchen.
Sugar. And I can't remember how much sugar it was. I think it was only about a half a cup of sugar. It wasn't a lot of sugar. But again, that's a to taste thing. Like some people like lemonade super sweet. Some people like it more tart. I lean onto the more tart side. So I then kind of muddled the sugar. So I took a big spoon and put the sugar in with the lemon juice and the rinds and kind of all just ground it up together to get more of the zest and the oil out of the rind. And then I added...
You muddled it.
yes, it's called
Is that
muddling.
Is that true? Is that a...
That's a legitimate term. I just took a spoon and beat it up.
Wow.
Yeah.
I never heard that before.
If you have a cocktail shaker, usually it comes with like a muddle. That's like a
muddle.
big wooden stick that you can
Oh, okay.
like grind stuff together with.
Got
You
it.
see people using it to make mojitos and
Yes.
things like that. That's
Yes,
like the
it's-
classic muddled drink.
Yes, it is a mojito because you need to
Muddle the mint.
Yes. Poor cats can't have mint. What's wrong? And then, so then I added water on top of it. I'm trying to think of actually how much water this was. So for every 4 lemons, it's like a quart of water.
Wow.
Yeah. Because you got to make, so,
You got to dilute those lemons.
well, yes.
Okay.
Yes, you do. So it's, let's see. It's 4 lemons, a half cup of sugar, a quart of water. And so once you have the sugar and the lemons together, I add the water in and you stir it until the sugar's dissolved. I turned the heat up a little bit because sugar does not like to dissolve in cold water. So I used a little bit of a warmer water. And then once that was done, I put it in a pitcher, strained out the lemon rinds, put it in a giant pitcher, took a cucumber and sliced up cucumber slices very small
Ah, okay.
and threw those in the lemonade. And threw that and put the whole pitcher in the refrigerator for, an hour or so to
Yeah.
let it meld and get all the flavors happy.
Meld.
Yeah, it's like that water they give you at a spa.
Yes, it's
If you've ever been to a spa that has cucumber water.
fancy water. It's really, we've just made fancy cucumber lemon water. And then basically just pull it out of the refrigerator, add your favorite, shot of vodka or a shot of gin in with a glass and add some of the lemonade on top. And there you go. But again, if you want a mocktail, you have a whole pitcher of cucumber lemonade.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Wow. Can you really taste the cucumber? I never had
Yes.
that. Oh,
You can.
And
So
it's-
very surprisingly, I was shocked at that.
Wow.
but,
I wouldn't think of doing that. Yeah.
Of the picky, non-alcohol drinking folks in my home, my children, I got 1 thumb up for the lemonade and 1 thumb in the middle, which means it was not good and it was not bad.
Okay, you can't. Well, that's not bad.
I take those all as successes.
Yeah.
That's a success in our house. So,
Wow. Fantastic.
yeah.
That's 2 great recipes for, I'll tell you, I'm going to go try them.
Nice summer drinks. It's getting warmer.
True.
Sounds like the kind of thing you could definitely impress people with without a lot of effort, too.
0 effort.
You made your own lemonade?
Yes, exactly. Like this is,
Cucumbers.
semi-homemade kitchen going on here. Like we're low bar.
Thanks for sharing those great recipes, Courtney. They sound delicious. And thank you for being a guest on the 2 Cat Kitchen.
Well, you're very welcome, and thank you for having me. This was fun.
That wraps up the recipe portion of the podcast, and we will be right back on 2 Cat Kitchen.
And now it's time for another episode of Conversations with Cats Who Know Where It's At. Today, we're continuing our conversation with Madame Lemieux.
Conversations. We're having a chat. Conversations. Put out the welcome mat. Conversations. As a matter of fact. Conversations with cats who know where it's at.
We're back with Conversations with Cats Who Know Where It's At. Continuing last episode's conversation with Madame Lemieux, noted socialite and artiste. Welcome back, Madame Lemieux.
Oh, thank you. I am a delight, aren't I?
Yes, of course. Now, when we left off last episode, we were discussing your brief romance with the impresario, Monsieur Duclos. Is there any more you can tell us about this time in your life?
Well, I'm not going to give any saucy details, but what can I say? After he left me, I learned who I really was and became my own cat.
Ah, truly inspirational words, Madame Lemieux. Well, we've heard the many roles you've played, but tell us, which did you find most challenging?
Oh, well, I do think that time I played the cat in Cat's Cradle was one of the most difficult. I had to be very flexible. It required a lot of different acrobatics, and I had trained for months and months, and then still when I showed up on set, I found myself just stretched into new positions, but it was worth it in the end.
It was difficult to fit in the cradle.
That too.
Well, that's fascinating. That's interesting to know. And we also know that you've been in several motion pictures. Are there any filming locations that stand out in your memory?
Oh, well, there was this one time I was doing a very realistic, real-life drama about a scrappy cat who gets found in a sewer and has to survive the animal shelter. So we went to a real shelter, and I got to meet actual homeless dogs and cats and fish, and it was so moving to meet them and hear their stories, and I felt truly lucky to be able to portray their lives on the screen.
Wow, and you got to meet actual fish?
Oh, yes. They don't say much, but they do have a way in the water, don't they?
That's what I've heard. Well, that's a fascinating story. But unfortunately, we must bring our time together to a close. Perhaps you'd be willing to grace us with a reading. Maybe one of the great soliloquies you've had to perform over the years?
Oh, here's one. Very well. Where do I begin? My father was a relentlessly self-improving boulangerie owner from Belgium with a low-grade narcolepsy and a penchant for drudgery. My mother was a 15-year-old French prostitute named Chloe with webbed feet. My father would womanize, he would drink, he would make outrageous claims like he invented the question mark. Sometimes he would accuse chestnuts of being lazy. The sort of general malaise that only a genius could possess in the insane lament.
Wow, that's super inspiring. Was that Shakespeare?
No, Dr. Evil from Austin Powers.
Oh, I see.
I did a cat version.
Okay. Well, actually, do you have anything a little more classic? Perhaps something from the bard himself?
If I must. Macbeth, Act 5, Scene 5. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time, and all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out, out, brief candle! Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no rain.
That's all we have time for in this episode of the Two Cat Kitchen.
We'd like to thank our special guest, Courtney Schmidt. More thanks to Sophia Pearson.
And music by the Coconotes. I'm Rick McKinney.
And I'm Sara Grady.
We'll catch you next time right here at the Two Cat Kitchen.
The 2 and A